ייבנה ירדאי 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 עולם חסד ייבנה ירדאי ירדאי עולם חסד ייבנה And if we build this world from love, then God will build this world from love.
Olam chesed olam, da 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 ya da 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 da. Olam chesed olam, da 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 ya da 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 da. Olam chesed yibane. Da 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 ya da da da. Olam chesed yibane. Da 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 ya da da da.
Olam chesed yibane. Ya da 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 da. Olam chesed yibane, yadadai, dai, 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 dai. Olam chesed yibane, yadadai, dai, dai, dai. Olam chesed yibane, yadadai, dai, dai, dai.
Oh, say shalom bimroma. Ruya say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ve'imru.
Ose shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן, ואמרו אמן, ואמרו
We are so very thankful to our rabbis and cantors for the beautiful music that they just shared with us tonight to get us centered for an evening of support and love and peace. I want to thank all of you for joining us here tonight. And I'm also sorry that all of you are joining us here tonight. Once again, we come together as a community in need and a community that can give. And we are so thrilled and appreciative of those of you that have come together with us tonight. You know that on Saturday morning, during Shabbat services in Colleyville, Texas, at Congregation Beth Israel, someone came in that was welcomed in, as we've come to learn, and yet took hostage of a rabbi and 3 of the parishioners. And thank God that no one needed to sing, for those people at least, the mourner's Kaddish, as they were all able to leave unharmed. For all people in this country, to think that our sacred space could be invaded in such a way is just a terrible, horrible thought. At first, it was reported that the person came in and his focus wasn't his hatred or animosity towards Jews, but he had other things in mind. And as we've come to learn, he was seeking the release of a convicted terrorist. But he didn't choose to go to a public library and take people in the library hostage. He didn't choose to even go into a church and take people in a church hostage. He went to a synagogue. And that was an act of anti-Semitism. And unfortunately, it's an act of anti-Semitism that reverberates throughout the community, as we all could see ourselves being in that place. And it was very difficult as the weekend went on, because there really was not a lot of attention that was paid to what was happening. Sure, if you watched some of the cable news outlets, they had their coverage going on, but it wasn't picked up in our local media or press. And quite honestly, in talking to rabbis and cantors and other Jewish professionals around, there weren't that many calls or messages that came in. And I'm just afraid that that's a sign that this kind of hatred is getting normalized. And so we need to come together when these horrible tragedies occur to say that this is not acceptable and that it will never be normal. So I thank all of you for being here. We're going to hear from the governor, the attorney general, state legislators, clergy, and leaders from various communities. Of course, we had to limit the number of people that were here, but we were reached out by people like our U.S. Attorney, Cole Finnegan, by the State Treasurer, Dave Young, by the CU Board Regent, Delana Spiegel, and so many others who would have lent their voices if only we had more time. But right now, I want to turn it over to my friend and the president of the Rocky Mountain Rabbis and Cantors, Brian Field.
Holy One of Blessing, we gather here in your many names, grateful that all 4 hostages survived. We gather in our vulnerability, knowing it could have been any of us taken hostage in our sacred place of prayer. We are angry. For the third time in 3 years, a Jewish place of worship was violated while Jews were gathered in prayer. And for many of us, Saturday's events evoked a trauma response, a sudden unwelcome yank into feelings of anxiety and helplessness. And we also gather in love. My heart is filled reading stories about the friendship and love which Muslim and Christian faith leaders and their communities offered to the Beth Israel community, and by extension to all of us. We felt this. It mattered. Tonight's gathering is called Responding to Anti-Semitism, a Call to Action. So what actually delivers a blow to anti-Semitism? What can we concretely do? This evening, you'll hear about 2 specific initiatives. But first, we can be clear about what we're calling out. Anti-Semitism shows up as many things, but at root, anti-Semitism is a conspiracy theory that sees Jews as all-powerful manipulators of the world. And when societies experience a pileup of unsolved problems like ours is experiencing now, and people are feeling rage and fear and desperation, they will be drawn to or incited to target Jews. So Colleyville was not random. It's part of a very old and entrenched pattern. So we deal a blow to anti-Semitism when we build strong and lasting relationships with people who refuse to be divided from us and each other. When we or any group gets targeted, we notice, we don't acquiesce, and we speak up. And now a word of blessing. May the members of Congregation Beth Israel and their rabbi find healing beneath Shekhinah's wings. May we find the divine in our caring for each other and our speaking up for each other. May we all be blessed with love. May we all be blessed with peace. And may we all be blessed with courage. It's now my honor and privilege to introduce the governor of the state of Colorado, Jared Paulus.
Thank you, Rabbi Field. Thank you to our great musical performers. I won't add my musical voice to theirs. We'll just to take some consolation in the great words that they sang. Joe Dubroff, Jewish Colorado. Scott Levin, thank you, ADL. Rocky Mountain Rabbis and Cantors. This event that brings us together is really for the unfortunate tragedy that occurred, that could have been worse. Obviously, great trauma in the community and to Jews across the country and the world. The horrific anti-Semitic hostage taking at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. I'm proud to see the diversity and strength of our state come together. And that includes voices from allied groups like the Downtown Denver Islamic Center, the Catholic Archdiocese of Denver, the Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance, the Interfaith Alliance, the Asian Pacific Development Center, Colorado Sikhs. It's really wonderful to see that we are not just in our own community, but part of our collective community to make it a more inclusive place and to denounce anti-Semitism in all of its forms. My heart goes out to everybody involved. I'm so glad and thankful that the rabbi and the hostages are safe. One can only imagine the trauma that, of course, the hostages experienced, but also their family members, other congregants, and so many others. While the circumstances are heartbreaking, it gives me hope to see such a great group of Coloradans shining light on the rise of discrimination and anti-Semitism and hate in the United States and around the world, and joining together in speaking out against it. What happened at Congregation Beth Israel could happen anywhere in any of our communities. And sadly, our state is no stranger to the scourge of hate. from Boulder to Pueblo, in our own state, from Pittsburgh to Poway to Charlottesville. Hate crimes against Jewish Americans have risen dramatically in the United States. But instead of living quietly or enduring it silently, it's time to remember why those congregants who showed up were there to celebrate Shabbat, celebrate their heritage with their community. And as we can see tonight, we're united. People of different faiths, different colors, immigrants, marginalized communities. We all suffer when any one of our communities is targeted by hatred or bigotry. Thankfully, due to the leadership of many on this call, Colorado has very strong laws against hate crimes, more funding to secure our community institutions. But we know that it's not always a matter of law. It's also a matter of education. That's why I was so pleased to sign our new law a year and a half ago, requiring the adoption of Holocaust and genocide education in our schools. Lessons about the Holocaust, remembering so we don't repeat, and so many other horrific genocides that weren't prevented can help inspire people to prevent future acts of anti-Semitism or hatred. It can also teach us the importance of standing up against injustice and also acting as allies and in solidarity with those who are targeted. Tonight, I'm struck by our drive to come together to ensure that Colorado remains a Colorado for all. Remember, the state of Colorado stands with you. As a state, we take this and other threats against the Jewish community or any marginalized community as a threat against all of us, one that we will not tolerate, as we will not tolerate in a Colorado for all discrimination or hate in any form. I look forward to continuing this dialogue to do whatever we can in our power to prevent this kind of hate from arising in the first place, the anti-Semitic events that took place in Texas, to promote inclusion, to respect and celebrate our differences so that our state and our nation can truly live up to our ideals. Shalom, Toda Rabah, thank you.
Well, Governor Paulus, thank you so very much for your words. I know that this reaches you not only as the leader of a state and the leader of people, but also for you personally. I know what this means as it does to all of us. And at this time, I'd like to introduce my friend and partner and really co-sponsor of this evening, Rabbi J. Streer, the Executive Director of Jewish Colorado.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Governor Paulus, for your words of support. I know we both wish that this weekend's incident hadn't brought home in so violent a manner that, as Martin Luther King wrote, we are all bound by an inescapable network of mutuality. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. The American Jewish community understands that its presence in this country for some is a provocation. We are not alone in this. Our country's history is rife with examples of violence against communities whose very demarcations are at once the thing that binds them and the thing that sets them apart in some people's eyes. But the presence of so many of our speakers tonight is a testament to the strength of King's proposal that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Let the injustice of this weekend's event and the injustice of all such acts of terror be a reminder that we have before us a call to action we ignore at our peril. 3 years ago, in the wake of Tree of Life Synagogue tragedy in Pittsburgh, Jewish Colorado began working with Secure Community Network. Working with the Anti-Defamation League locally, Rose Community Foundation, and other funders, we launched the Regional Safety and Security Initiative. Through training, site assessments, and other services, we are helping to raise the level of security and preparedness for not just Jewish organizations, but where possible, ecumenical organizations as well. Organizations can visit this page on our website that will be now shown on the screen. You may recognize the name Secure Community Network from reports detailing the siege in Colleyville. But Beth Israel is one of hundreds and hundreds of synagogues and other Jewish organizations whose infrastructure was assessed and made more secure under the auspices of SCN security programs, and whose rabbis, lay leaders, and congregants received training for secure community network security consultants. That training is critical, and it is being hailed by both Beth Israel's Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker and the three hostagers as the reason, along with the intervention of law enforcement, that the situation ended with their escape to safety. That such training is necessary is an issue that we as a community and as a country will have to grapple with in the coming months and years, just as have generations before us. That such training is available is something for which I am deeply grateful and of which I am tremendously proud. There is no issue of greater importance, no issue more paramount to Jewish Colorado, to me personally, and to all the members of our community than our safety and security. There may be little we can do to eliminate the evil in our midst, natural or human-made, intentional or not. What we can do is care for our community in its spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. It is now my honor to introduce our friend and most dedicated professional, Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser.
Thank you, Jay, for your friendship, for your leadership. Thank you, Scott, for your friendship and leadership. The ADL and Jewish Colorado providing this critical forum is something we all need. In a period of just over 3 years, we saw 3 attacks on a synagogue on Shabbat morning. When people were there to pray, to study, to grow spiritually, they instead found themselves facing physical threats. The last attack, as Jay noted, because of training and incredible leadership by the rabbi, none of those threatened, taken hostages were hurt, but easily it could have been otherwise. That 3 attacks are the only time that I'm aware of in US history that Jews praying on Shabbat morning have found themselves in harm's way. And that is something that we all have to reflect deeply on. We have to recognize the dark times we are facing in this nation. It can be said that anti-Semitism and hate more generally is a leading sign of a toxicity that is a threat to our democratic republic. It's a call for all of us to engage and to ask, how can we respond with vigilance to what is a grave concern? We can respond with the best tradition of the United States of America, the tradition of Abraham Lincoln, who called us to our better angels, of Martin Luther King, who called on us with a dream of equal justice for all, of Abraham Joshua Heschel, who marched with Martin Luther King and called on us in the Jewish tradition to be committed to social justice and the teaching that was being studied on Saturday, do not forget the stranger, for you are strangers in a strange land, and of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who found much wisdom in our tradition, including the phrase she often cited, justice, justice shall you pursue. That's the tradition of the United States of America that I would call our attention to. But more than that, I would call our attention to the tradition of Colorado and Governor Ralph Carr, who refused to intern Japanese Americans and who stood up for justice when it was hard to do so. For Mayor Wellington and First Lady and State Rep Wilma Webb, who fought for a Martin Luther King Day holiday here and have led a parade around this principle of justice for all. And the faith leaders on this call coming together in this college tradition that unfortunately is now a tradition of being there for one another. Because when we had that Tree of Life shooting 3+ years ago, the Muslim community showed up, as did other faith communities. And when there was an attack on a mosque in Christchurch, the Jewish community was there, Muslim community, and painfully, when the person watching on Facebook Live was quote unquote inspired and then attacked a synagogue near San Diego, again, these communities came together. We have work to do as a broader community, work to both identify, to report, and to be vigilant in the face of rising hate crimes or attempted hate crimes like we had in Pueblo here in Colorado at a synagogue. We have work to do to make sure that in our own lives, we do not allow ourselves to indulge in the sort of behavior that demonizes one another. And I will tell you, the pressures to do so on social media and otherwise are a threat to our democratic republic. We've got a lot of work to do. The training that Rabbi Spear talked about is really important. It is a credit to Jewish Colorado and Jay Streer that we are indeed ahead of this curve, and that synagogues like the one I belong to are talking about how to take advantage of that training. As we do that work, I would say we do so in an important spirit. Admiral Stockdale was asked how he survived a Vietnam prisoner of war camp, and what he said was, you need two things. You need hope and faith and belief, and you also need to be realistic about the challenges we face. My grandmother, who's a source of inspiration to me, survived the Holocaust and gave birth to my mom in a concentration camp, and she had much the same attitude. She never lost her sense of belief and hope. And I believe in the United States of America, and I believe that we can rise to meet these challenges. It will not be easy. And there's a Jewish song that speaks to this, which is, the whole world is a narrow bridge. And the important thing is not to be afraid. And as we cross that bridge together, I would look to Ethics of Our Fathers, which says to each of us, you do not have the obligation to repair the world by yourself, but you're not free to desist from doing your part. And this community is in this work together. I appreciate all of you, and thank you for organizing this important convening.
Attorney General Weiser, we thank you so much for your wise words. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I first met Imam Mohammed Khalila when an unfortunate incident happened at the mosque, Masjid al-Shuhada, the downtown Denver Islamic Center, when someone showed up there reportedly with a weapon outside. And many of us felt compelled to go and support. And so for you to be here tonight, to be in support of us, is truly, truly well received. And we thank you very much. With that, I introduce everyone to the Imam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and the blessing of God be upon all of you. Shalom alaikum in all languages. Everyone deserves that peace, especially the houses of worship. And I can relate very well to the feelings of trauma and post-traumatic events when we had someone showing the gun here at the parking lot of the masjid here in downtown Denver Islamic Center, and they had all the rabbis and many other faith leaders and the interfaith community showing up right next day in front of the doors of the place. And some of them joined us in our Friday prayers. And it was very interesting because that was the night before the Friday prayer, the weekly sermons that we experience as Muslims communities. First of all, as Scott said earlier, we are very glad that everyone here today showing support to the Jewish community and all communities across the globe, not just the United States, experience the violence at their houses of worship. The houses of worship that are given the maximum reverence from all communities. Also, I'm very sorry that we gather here today just for that traffic event. And as Rabbi Joe Black told me earlier, I think we need to convene for other things other than that. We need to come and break the bread together, and we need to come and have coffee together or have lunch together. On behalf of all the Muslim communities and on behalf of all the communities across Colorado and Muslim communities in the US, I'm expressing our solidarity with all the Jewish communities across the country. I remember when the communities across Colorado came to us and showed us the support, and that's what interfaith communities need to be for. No one should be scared at the houses of worship. No one should be scared at the houses of worship, as they are the heaven for peace. As all of us, like I couldn't imagine, like now I have my daughter here with me at the mosque, and they just finished the last prayer in the day, and I couldn't imagine someone knocking in the doors, getting inside and start threatening my community, my daughter and myself. That's a place that we bring our kids to play, and bring our kids to connect with their families and their communities, and to have fun and to laugh together. So I'm very sorry for all those who experience this. And I think all of us need to, as Rabbi Brianfield said before, call for actions, to do actions as faith leaders, as representatives, as executive positions. Everyone in their own positions should do their parts. Thank you so much again for inviting me, and let's stand together. Thank you.
Imam, thank you so very much for those wonderful words. And now it's really a great pleasure for me to introduce you to Sister Magdaleep Balduk. Sister is someone that I have known now for quite a while as the liaison for the Jewish community from the Archdiocese of Denver. She's stood with our community in good times and unfortunately in bad. And I'm so pleased to be able to welcome her here tonight with her words and those of the Archbishop. Sister?
Thank you, Scott. And thank you for all the people behind the scene that have made this event possible and so quick. First of all, I want to say on behalf of the bishop, on behalf of my community of the Beatitudes, and on behalf of myself, that we're so sorry. If there's any people that were taken hostage listening to us, we are so sorry. Here is a word from Bishop Aquila from the Archdiocese of Denver. Quote, "We join others around the nation and world in praying for our Jewish brothers and sisters at the Beth Israel congregation as they recover and move forward after this heinous act of hate. Every person of faith, regardless of their religion or beliefs, deserves the right to worship without fear for their personal safety, but sadly, that is not always the world we live in. In Colorado, we have recently seen many acts of vandalism at places of worship, and now we are once again reminded of what can happen when that aggression is escalated to another level. But we also know that evil will never truly triumph, and we will continue to place our faith and hope in our loving God. And so today I stand in unity with my brothers and sisters of all religions and pledge to continue to stand together against these acts of evil and hate. May God bless us all. Archbishop Samuel Aquila of the Archdiocese of Denver." End of quote. Bishop affirms our belief that we can put our hope in our loving God, and this is the first step to action for us believers, a powerful way, hope and prayer. I believe that what we are doing now is an act of hope, an act of repair, an act of love. And these are human, beautiful, powerful gestures. I thank you all. And really, it's a gift for us to be here and be able to say that we are compassionate and we are committed for this not to happen. It hurts me to think that at the place of the most beautiful act of human being, which is prayer, that's exactly what was attacked. We are vulnerable when we pray, and we are doing what a human being can do the best, is honor his creator and the creature. I believe that each one of us have to find a way to stand and commit and enter into a form of action. It will be different for each one of us, but we have to commit to a form of action. Mine, of course, is first of all prayer, but as a church, we do commit to stand and educate. In my community, we are committing ourselves to be, through teaching and prayer, working, acting against anti-Semitism. We cannot do anything against stupidity, but we can change people's minds by education, the minds of common sense, and the weak minds can be influenced by good education. We need God's grace and strength to resist any denial of the gravity of the rise of anti-Semitism in the States and terrorism. May God give us that strength.
Well, Sister, thank you so very much. And please pass our thanks on to the bishop as well. We truly appreciate you. And now I'd like to introduce you to Reverend Tamara Boynton. We're so pleased at the Anti-Defamation League. Among our closest partners is the Interfaith Alliance of Colorado. And Reverend Boynton's not only an ordained minister in the United Church of Christ, but she's also the Director of Strategic Engagement at the Interfaith Alliance. Tamara.
Thank you, Scott. Greetings to all of you, and thank you so much to the ADL and the Rocky Mountain Rabbis and Cantors in Jewish Colorado for being here and for gathering us for this important moment. I want to begin by denouncing the actions, the thoughts, the ideas, the evil that led to the hostage taking and attack on Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. We live in a country that espouses religious freedom, and no house of worship should ever be targeted, attacked, and denigrated by violence and hatred. Our hearts are with all who have been traumatized by this. To all our friends and partners in the Colorado Jewish community, we love you, we support you, we are with you, and we will get through this. Bezrat Hashem. My friends, love wins, good triumphs, there is power in community. Praise God. In addition to denouncing the actions, I also want to call out that the gunman did not arrive there on his own. He is the product of an ideology that is ubiquitously trying yet again to take root. This week, like too many in the recent past, has reaffirmed to us that anti-Semitism and discrimination are very much alive today. They live in circles, in, dare I say out loud, Christian circles, contemporary circles, extremist circles, nationalist circles, populist circles. A rise in anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine for marginalized groups who face unprecedented rises in hate crimes and discrimination. This should be terrifying to each and every one of us. Our liberation, our safety, our faith, our very lives are all entwined, as you have already heard, and the rise in hate against my faith-rooted siblings is a rise in hatred against me and against every single one of us, no matter what, if any, religion we practice. We have heard Dr. Ibram Kendi say that one cannot only be not a racist, but you must either be actively anti-racist or you are supporting the structures that uplift and benefit from racism. Anti-Semitism and anti-Black racism both largely stem from the same ugly culture of white supremacy that has become even more visible in recent years. And if we relegate this behavior to extremists and crazies and just shake our heads with disgust, assuming that most people don't subscribe to these views, we are not recognizing that there are structures and systems that benefit from anti-Semitism. And these systems and narratives and ideologies need to be taken apart and dismantled. And it will take all of us, every one of us, on this call and well beyond in the trenches to do it. The Interfaith Alliance of Colorado stands ready to support legislation, policies, and people who share a commitment to diversity, pluralism, safety, and values-rooted liberation. Love wins, good triumphs, there is power in community. Praise God. Thank you.
Reverend Boynton, thank you so very, very much for your words. And now I just want to read a quick note from my former law school professor, the esteemed Vednanda. As chair of the Board of Trustees of the Hindu Temple and Cultural Center of the Rockies, I want to share with you the sentiments of solidarity of the Hindu community of Colorado. We were shocked that on the sacred day, a perpetrator violated the sanctity of the synagogue, holding hostages and causing untold fear. It is shameful that anti-Semitic behavior is still prevalent in this country. We stand in solidarity with our Jewish brothers and sisters. Shalom and namaste. Respectfully, Vednanda. We thank him for those words. And now I'd like to introduce you to Dilpreet Jammu. Dilpreet is the former president of the Interfaith Alliance of Colorado and is the executive director and president of the Colorado Six. Dilpreet.
Thank you so much, Scott, for that kind introduction. And thank you also to ADL, the Jewish Colorado, and Rocky Mountain rabbis and cantors for inviting me here today with so many other distinguished guests. On behalf of all Colorado Six, let me first say that we are truly sorry the Jewish community has to face this again. Our Gurdwara, our houses of worship, is a place we go to be safe, to commune with the divine, to worship, to reflect, to take care of community, and to find our spiritual path forward. It is not meant for SWAT teams and senseless violence. In my lifetime, I have seen white supremacists attacking gurdwaras, synagogues, mosques, and African-American churches. Whether domestic or foreign, these individuals terrorize our congregations. I agree with Reverend Tamara that anti-Semitism is a canary in the coal mine, as she put it, and with A.G. Weiser, who said that anti-Semitism is a leading sign of increasing hate. I believe that our words eventually create actions and outcomes. In particular, the words our elected officials use matter a great deal. I am grateful that the representatives here today are known to choose their words with care and wisdom to support and to uplift. Unfortunately, there are elected men and women here in Colorado and nationally who choose differently. They use their words to denigrate other religions, genders, minorities, immigrants, people of color. When they are challenged, they quickly claim that it is they who have been misunderstood, that they are the victims. Make no mistake, in their desire to be elected, they create division and destroy trust that is needed for community. And because they have no positive vision for taking our nation forward, they tear things down. They use fear and hate for the sake of power and place our lives in jeopardy. Now, after years at the Interfaith Alliance and with my faith tradition, I believe in the oneness of the human race. I believe that we need to work together to call people into community. This is still true for me. And in a civilized society where common values and human life is being respected. However, I also believe that we need to call out those who create division for their own gain. If we cannot hold them accountable, let us at least draw attention and demand transparency. Let us call hate when we see it. Let me remind you that everything that we see, from our roads to our homes, our buildings, our businesses, these have been built through cooperation. And by working together, we achieve things that we cannot do alone. Over 500 years ago, Guru Nanak, the founder of my faith, put forth that it was possible to build a society that was based on truth, on justice, and compassion. Our political leaders cannot solve problems by themselves. We, all of us, we need to work together for our community. Our places of worship need to remain open and welcoming, safe places without fear. Let us all come together to begin on a conversation on how to solve this common problem. I welcome the opportunity to begin a dialogue and to find solutions together. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of the powerful words that have been shared so far. We come here today together as a community that is scared. We come here together today as a community that is in pain. come here together as a community to hold each other and to help each other and to heal each other. And so in that spirit, we offer this prayer of healing.
Avotenu Mikor havracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
Misheberach imotenu mekor abracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Thank you so very much for those prayerful songs that are so touching. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Thomas Mays of the Living Water Christian Center and president of the Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance, and my friend, Dr. Mays.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited that we come together. Unfortunately, that under the circumstances that we have to encounter at this time, but know that we are with you 100%. I am excited because the tragedy that could have happened didn't happen. And I want to know that I want everyone to know, not only the Denver Ministerial, the Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance, but as the chair of the religious affairs for the NAACP Aurora chapter, we stand in solidarity with our Jewish family. We are not just friends, we're not just people who come together, but you are our family. I want to remind us that there are things that have happened in our society that we have no control over, but we're grateful that we stand together. I was reading, and it's unfortunate this happened during the Martin Luther King celebration, but I was reading this from 2015. The court recounted the crimes of Dylan Roof, who was a 21-year-old admitted white supremacist. He entered the church on June 17, 2015, and joined a Bible study group. The parishioners welcomed Roof, handing him a Bible and a study sheet. For the next 45 minutes, Roof worshiped with the parishioners. They stood and shut their eyes for closing prayer. Roof then took out his gun and started shooting. Parishioners drove under tape. He continued shooting, reloading multiple times. After firing approximately 74 rounds, Roof reached one parishioner who was praying aloud. He told her, "Shut up," and then asked if he had shot her yet. Ruth then told her, I'm going to leave you here to tell the story. We are here to tell the story. We're grateful for those who survived to tell the story. But the story is told over and over again. And it's so important for us to not allow something like this to happen before we come together and show the unity. We realize that what has been done, what we have experienced in the last few days, is something that happens over and over again. And we have to come together and remember that this is a time when what we've seen happen was purposely to divide us. We cannot allow ourselves to be divided. I remember in 1957, there was in history at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, Dr. King, he said something that really gives us a lot of wisdom, and it really resounds today. He said, for the person who hates, the truth becomes false, and the false becomes true. That's what hate does. You can't see it right. The symbol of objectivity is lost. Hate destroys the very structure of the personality of the hater. That's what we've experienced. And it's so important for us to even look now as we look at one another on this Zoom call. We see the love, we see the togetherness, but it really gives us an opportunity to really work hard. We look at what's going on now and we know that there's something really important. This is just an extremist with hate in his heart. Extremists are of no faith tradition. They're just extremists. An extremist with hideous goals, and it's not aligning with any of our faith. So we have to now reaffirm the significance of relationship between different faiths. It's our time to come together and pray, understand one another better with more clarity. It's important. We need to develop that knowledge and appreciation for one another's traditions. It's important for us to expand our existing infrastructure of collaboration. It's time for us to come together like we've never come together before. We realize times may get even worse with the pandemic, with the separation, we've losing relationships. We can't allow it to happen. We have to come together and realize only light can drive out darkness, and only love can drive out hate. We've got to show unity. We have to bind ourselves together, our hearts, our minds, and our really inner person, that inner being, and bind ourselves together with love, standing arm in arm, not just physically, but spiritually, knowing that we're in this together, and together we can win, we can make it happen. We have to show more love than we've ever shown before. So on behalf of the Greater Metro Denver Ministerial Alliance and the NAACP here in Aurora, we say to our Jewish family, we love you, we're praying for you, and we're praying with you, and we're in this together. And when someone attacks you, they attack us, and we must stand together. Thank you, Scott. Thank you to everyone on this Zoom tonight, because you show that the enemy can be defeated, and we are resilient enough to stand together in love and show that there is no difference in color, in our beliefs, in our faith, and our strength, but we come together as one. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Mays, for those calls to action and for those really great words. I'd now like to turn to Harry Buddhistharda, who's the Executive Director of the Asian Pacific Development Center. We know that the AAPI community has also faced so much hatred that has come up just in this recent past. And so we welcome the words of Harry. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for inviting me to be here. I am humbled to be here to share this sacred space and to stand together with all of you. The Asian American and Pacific Islanders community, the AAPI communities, we stand with you and with any communities that have been victimized by hate crime. It is sad that our communities are not strangers to hate. We have experienced a sharp increase in hate recently due to the rhetoric around COVID. However, at the same time, we have also seen a substantial outpouring of support from our allies and friends. We know the importance of standing together with our allies and forcefully condemning all instances of hate and bigotry. Hate crimes should not and will never be normalized. As multiple speakers have mentioned today, it is very important for all of us to come together and stand with each other. We are proud of the fact that there is a long history of collaboration between our communities. We are proud to be your ally and friends, and we are proud to be part of Hate Free Colorado, a coalition of nonprofits and civil rights organizations that are dedicated to countering hate crimes in Colorado. Later in the program, as Scott mentioned, there will be a call to action. We hope that you can join us and take a firm stance against hate, to let people know that hate crimes is not tolerated and will never be normalized anywhere, and that all of us are together to combat and counter hate with our messages of love and acceptance. So once again, I want to say thank you for inviting me to share this space with all of you, and may God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And we wish peace for all communities, including yours. One of the first phone calls that I received on Saturday after hearing about this terrible tragedy going on down in Colleyville, Texas, was from the Denver Police Department Chief Paul Payson. Chief Payson has been a wonderful partner to our community in these times of need, and I am so grateful that he's joining us here tonight. Chief Payson.
Scott, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here tonight. I want to thank the ADL, Jewish Colorado, as well as our faith leaders and elected officials for coming together. We have to recognize that we cannot tolerate anti-Semitism in our community, and acknowledging it and working together to address it is how we can make sure that our community, all forms of hate, are addressed so we can prevent and reduce the violence that is impacting our community. The events that took place Saturday in Colleyville, Texas remind us at the Beth Israel Synagogue that we have to be vigilant, that we have to take these steps in order to protect our community. I want to acknowledge the bravery, the quick thinking of Rabbi Citron Walker, who saved lives by taking action and keeping his congregation safe. Houses of worship should be safe areas in our community. The sanctity of our churches, our mosques, our synagogues has been violated, and it's been violated far too often, not only in Pittsburgh, San Diego, an attempt down in Pueblo, and then most recently in Colleyville, Texas. But we're unfortunately well aware of hatred outside of a mosque in Denver with a person armed with a gun. We're too familiar with the basilica and the hatred that was directed towards the basilica just recently, and the horrible loss of life of a young student at the yeshiva here locally. So we stand with our Jewish community, we stand with all of our faiths in order to overcome these historic challenges that we are facing. As has been alluded, love conquers hate. There's too much hate in our community, and coming together is our only path forward. So I want to commend the ADL, Jewish Colorado, all of the faith leaders, our elected officials for coming together, because this is where we take a stand. This is where we say we will not tolerate anti-Semitism, nor will we tolerate hate in our community. And we stand with our community to try to prevent these horrible incidences from happening here. And we must unite to prevent them from happening in other areas as well. Thank you so much, Scott, and everybody on this call as work to prevent these types of tragedies from occurring in the future. Thank you.
Chief, thank you so very much. It is a comfort to the community to know that law enforcement does have our backs, and that's due to the great leadership that you bring. So thank you. I'd now like to introduce everyone to the director of the JCRC, the Jewish Community Relations Committee, and to its council, and to its wonderful director, Joe Dubroff.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you so much for your partnership. My name is Joe Dubroff, and with our chair, Matt Most, I lead the Jewish Community Relations Council, a program of Jewish Colorado. The JCRC is the Jewish community's voice on public policy issues here in our state. We count 38 organizations and 12 at-large members among our group who come to a table together to formulate policy positions. Before going any further, I did want to quickly acknowledge some of the Colorado General Assembly members who are joining us tonight, specifically Representative Nan Judah, Representative Daphne Michelson-Janae, Representative Emily Sirota, and Senator Chris Hansen. I also know that there are a number of legislators and other public officials who are with us in the audience tonight, and I want to say thank you for being here with us during this difficult time. What took place at Congregation Beth Israel on Saturday is unfortunately not an anomaly. It happened in the Oak Ridge, Wisconsin, Gurdwara in 2012. It happened in 2015 at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. It happened at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh in 2018. It also happened at Masjid Al-Noor and Linwood Islamic Center in Christchurch, New Zealand in 2019. And just a month later at Chabad of Poway, California. In 2020, our Asian neighbors became targets due to COVID-19 conspiracy theories before the March 2021 Atlanta attacks. While the presence of so many partners is comforting in this time of distress, we cannot keep doing this. And while we wish it was not necessary, this is why 62 organizations, including the JCRC, Colorado Muslim Society, the Catholic Archdiocese of Denver, and the Interfaith Alliance of Colorado, have been working on legislation that this weekend's events demonstrate is both urgent and essential. Together, we are advocating for the creation of the Colorado Nonprofit Security Grant Program, or Colorado NSGP. The Colorado NSGP would supplement the federal program, allow more houses of worship and other community gathering places in our state who just miss out on the federal program's awards to complete capital projects to better protect those using their facilities. An alarm system or a reinforced door or a camera system can be life-saving. We are grateful to have amazing partners in the General Assembly working with us on this legislation. And 3 of them are here with us tonight. Representative Michelson-Janae, Representative Judah, Senator Hansen, thank you. And I'm honored to introduce our next speaker, Representative Judah, who became the first Muslim to serve in the Colorado General Assembly in 2021, representing House District 46 in Aurora. She has served as spokesperson for Colorado Muslim Society, the state's oldest and largest mosque, since 2017. Before her election, she was the community advocate liaison of the Interfaith Alliance of Colorado. She founded the organization Meet the Middle East in 2008. Born and raised in Colorado, Representative Judah is a first-generation Palestinian American. Representative Judah, thank you so much for being with us and for your leadership and for your partnership.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's organized tonight. And to Josh, thank you for that very kind introduction. Assalamu alaikum. May peace and blessings be upon all of us. You know, on Friday, the Colorado Democratic Black Caucus in the House of Representatives and the Senate passed the annual Martin Luther King resolution. When I went to the well to speak to the resolution, I said, one of the most impactful quotes that continues to resonate with me is, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And I continue to say, MLK is the actual embodiment of justice. He knew that his message, his struggle, impacted people all around the world. And as a Muslim, as a Palestinian, I look to each of you as my friends that will never remain silent. You know, when I spoke those words, I saw in the eyes of my friends, my Democratic caucus, they were telling me that they do stand with me as we stand with you tonight. And this is what we're doing tonight. We are friends that refuse to stay silent. On Monday, I had the honor of giving the Muslim prayer at the MLK Meridian. Many of you were there, and many of you may have heard me share my thoughts that still resonate tonight as well. I started with the Quranic verse that, again, many of you have already heard. And it says, "O mankind, we created you from a single pair of male and female, and we made you into nations and tribes that ye may know one another, not that ye may despise one another. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of God is the most righteous of you." And just like we did on Monday to honor MLK, tonight we come together in each of our nations and tribes on a night that brings the people together, that we may know one another, not despise one another. Just like Scott said, the Muslim and Jewish communities have stood together in solidarity. We continue to be there for each other, especially when violence continues to happen on hollow ground. And because of this unfortunate kinship of fighting violence against our communities, we continue to prove that we have a bond that is unmatched. On that note, I very much look forward to working with this coalition, with Representative Michelson-Janae on the security grant to make sure that our houses of worship are in fact safe. And I will end with this. Allah says in the Holy Quran, "O you have faith, stand firm, for God has witnesses in equity, and let not the hatred of people cause you to be unjust. Be just, for that is nearer to righteousness." Friends, it pains me that we have to continue to do this for all of our communities, as we continue to fight the sin of deviating from justice. As your neighbor, as a social justice advocate, as the spokeswoman for the Colorado Muslim Society, as the first Muslim and Arab woman elected to the Colorado State Legislature, I promise that I will always speak up, to use my platform to reaffirm my commitment to fight for all marginalized communities. And tonight, that is the Jewish community. Thank you.
Representative Judah, thank you so much for being here tonight and for your really wonderful and warm words. And at this time, I'd like to call on our friend, Representative Daphne Michelson-Janae, who is an extraordinary leader and, as I said, a great friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And thank you so much, Representative Judah, for your powerful words. I'm honored to be able to serve with you in the Colorado House of Representatives. I wanted to talk a little bit about this week's Torah portion. And in this week's Torah portion, we have one of my favorite Torah portions, and it's the Torah portion of Jethro, or Yitro, as we say in Hebrew. And in Yitro is Moshe, or Moses, Moshe's father-in-law, okay? And so everybody always loves to get advice from their father-in-law. And in this Torah portion, it is a doozy. Yitro comes over to Moses and says, "Hey, Moshe, listen, you're going about this this thing all wrong. You're trying to do everything by yourself. You can't do everything by yourself. You need to have partners in leadership. And he starts to go through types of people that Moshe needs to look for in partners in leadership. And he focuses on people of truth. And that really sticks with me today. When we heard Dilpreet Jammu of the Sikh community talk about their religious commitment to truth. And when we heard Dr. Mays from the Greater Denver Ministerial Alliance talk about how for those who hate, truth is false and false becomes truth. We know that we cannot get rid of anti-Semitism alone. And let me tell you, if you try, it's a really lonely place. But if we look for those people of truth, those people who come together with us tonight to share their truth, different walks of life and faith, we can lean on each other. We can lean on you. We know how to find the helpers. They're the people of truth. So I ask each of you to look deeply within yourself to find what your truth is. And I will tell you a little bit of mine. You know, we heard A.G. Weiser talk about one of my most favorite songs in all of Jewish liturgy and song. And that one is, "The whole world is a very narrow bridge, but the main thing to recall is to have no fear at all." Well, I have fear, friends. I have fear, and that's my truth. And we need to work together to find a place where we do have no fear at all, where we can walk into our places of worship, into our mosque, into our temple, into our church, where we can walk without any fear, where we can walk without any concern, where the imam can bring his daughter to his mosque and never, ever think twice. That's what our places of worship are all about. We are to come together, to stand, to sing in joyful prayer. There is no other holier place for us to be than in prayer, in community, together. So I am so grateful. I am grateful for the words of Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, when he said, "Look for the people of truth." I will look for the people of truth, and I hope you will join me. Thank you to everybody who took time out of your evening to be with us tonight. I can't tell you as a member of the Jewish community how much it means to me and how much we all look forward to standing up for each other in times of joy as well as times of grief.
Representative Michelson-Janae, thank you so much for sharing your powerful truth with us. The words of this wonderful folk song by Carrie Newcomer were inspired by words of Rabbi Hillel from Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, if not now, tell me when.
I see sorrow, trouble in this land. I see sorrow, trouble in this land. that we can. If not now, if not now, tell me when.
If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when.
I may never see the promised land. I may never see the promised land. And yet we'll take the journey and walk hand in hand. If not now, tell me when.
If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place in time again. If not now, tell me when.
So we'll work it till it's done. Every daughter, every son, every soul that ever longed for something better, something brighter.
It will take a change of heart for this to mend. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. But miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when.
If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment, place and time again. If not now, tell me when.
But miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when.
Oh, that is just so beautiful. I hope everyone can just take a deep breath and soak in that beautiful music, and to consider how hard this is to do when you're using this platform, and to have so many different voices sing so beautifully and in the same key. It was just really wonderful. Thank you all again for being with us. Just bear with us for just a couple more short words from myself, from Rabbi J. Streer, and then we'll have a closing prayer from Rabbi Emily Hyatt. I do really want to thank you all. I think we had over 1,000 screens that were tuned in tonight, and how special it was for those of us who needed to feel the support and the love of our community. I just want to repeat what that song said from Hillel. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Tonight, we need to stand up for ourselves, but we also need to stand up for our communities, and we must do it now. My call to action to you tonight is for you to consider the fact that it's been nearly 6 months since President Biden nominated Professor Deborah Lipstadt to be the State Department's anti-Semitism envoy. That's been stuck in Congress. And so I'm hopeful that if technology serves us right, that you'll see on your screen now a way that you can make your voice heard to push through this absolutely wonderful scholar and advocate for this very important position. And before I turn the microphone over for the last time to Rabbi Streer tonight, I also want to thank Cantor Elizabeth Sachs, who coordinated the beautiful music tonight, as well as all the people that sang, of all of the people that spoke and gave us their wonderful words of comfort and of wisdom. I want to thank Corey Gillies of the staff at Temple Emanuel, who has run and overseen the technology tonight that has made this look so nice. And finally, I want to thank my thought partner in so many things, but especially in tonight, Rabbi Joe Black, the senior rabbi at Temple Emanuel. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to Rabbi Streer. Jay?
Thank you, Scott, for your partnership, for your friendship, for your leadership, and thank you all for helping uplift our Jewish community and our Colorado community. We invite you all to join us on March 9, when our Jewish Community Relations Council will present a date with the state and more about the nonprofit security grant bill that will be introduced this week. You'll also hear from Mark Oppenheimer, who has just released a book about the Tree of Life shootings in Pittsburgh and how a community can heal from these kinds of tragedies. Finally, as we pray for a full recovery for those wounded by trauma, in gratitude for the heroism by those who saved additional lives, I'm honored to introduce Rabbi Emily Hyatt, incoming president of Rocky Mountain Rabbis and Cantors.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Streer and Scott and everyone who has made this evening so comforting. You probably notice that so many of my clergy colleagues are joining me on screen, and it feels really, really important to see all of your faces and to be here with you. And if we've learned anything in the last 22 months, it is how to pray together when we are not together. And so I am looking at your faces and seeing all of you and sharing you with the hundreds of people from around our community that are joining us right now as we close with a prayer. Yehi ratzon milfanecha, may it be your will, God. God of all who came before us, who delivered us out of Egypt, God who led us to freedom so long ago. Please, God, lead us again. From a world of danger to a world of safety. Lead us from a world of vulnerability to a world of stability. From a world of heaviness to a world free from these days that weigh down our hearts. Lead us to a world, God, where we can invite in the stranger, where we can welcome the unknown, where we can break bread and drink tea and offer warmth to all who seek it. Lead us to a world where we can learn together and grow together with our neighbors. Lead us to a world where we don't have to prepare, where we don't have to measure readiness and exits, where we don't have to think twice about what it means for us to join together to learn and pray and sing and celebrate, to mourn. God, lead us to a safe world, to a hopeful world, to a peaceful world. And we ask your blessing. Tatzidenu l'shalom. As we walk away from this space together, let our steps be steps of peace. Tadrichenu l'shalom. Let our paths be paths of peace. As we all walk together, side by side, screen by screen, into a better world. Let us all say together, Amen.
If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment, place and time again. If not now,